This is CPCU Champion Hour. We got Paul Gaglioti from Harbor.ai. Let's roll. Here we go.
We're talking about a lot of these things. We're talking about how to mentor.
File that under only the best decisions are made after midnight.
Right. That's right.
Your network is your net worth. Connect with someone.
Hey, what's up, champions?
Woohoo!
So we have a fantastic show rolling today. At the top of the show, I want to remind you this is a production of the CPCU Society, its volunteers, and the institutes. As usual, I'm going to ask you to like, comment, subscribe, share. You'll have some great opportunity to put some information into the comments later, potentially win some swag, and we have our second trivia winner this week, which is awesome. So we got a full show going. All right, icebreaker. We are coming up on the holidays. Actually, we were kind of in between holidays here. What is your favorite holiday dish? Dessert, main, side dish? What do you look forward to when it comes to Thanksgiving or your holiday meal later on in December into January?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Matt, because I like a combo of the foods together,
Uh-oh.
I like to do a little bit of that green bean casserole, a little bit of those mashed potatoes, a little bit of side of ham with it, just turn it into its own little casserole together.
You like a collection of food, a plethora of different tastes on your fork, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Precious?
So I am that obnoxious pumpkin spice latte person. That is me. I am she. I'm the one who's waiting for Starbucks to put it out there. We bake multiple pies throughout the season. Now there are some things that have taken it too far. And that's hard for me to say because I'm here for it most of the time. But I've seen some really bizarre things in the store. And I'm like, the world can do without pumpkin spice, certain things. And so, no, but I am here for it. I will rock it all the way out until the stores take it off the shelf and slap my hand and tell me it's over.
I would agree. There is a limitation. We can definitely draw the line. There might still be a debate about pineapple on pizza, but pumpkin spice pizza should not be a thing. No, we should not be going that far down that road.
No.
I am a mashed potato maximalist. I love mashed potatoes. I will eat them on with anything. In fact, when I was a little kid, after Thanksgiving or the holiday meal was done, late at night when you get the munchies because you eat so early in the day, I would make some of the leftover rolls, and I would just make mashed potato sandwiches. That was my thing. Yes, yeah, I am a mashed potato maximalist. So,
Matt, you're giving me an idea here. I need to take the roll, mashed potato, green bean casserole, slap me some ham. I will have my casserole sandwich.
To the moon, baby. Yes, yeah, definitely. All right. Now that we've got everyone hungry and gnawing at their arm here, we are ready for the first segment of this episode. It is the Insurance News Minute.
Hey there, CPCU Champion Hour fans. We're talking about this week Kettle. We know that we have a very special guest from an Insurtech firm with us today, but Kettle is the group that we're going to be talking about for our news this week. This is a San Francisco-based reinsurance startup that uses artificial intelligence to better protect people from that growing wildfire risk. Due to climate change. And it had announced that it's going to be been reinsuring homes during the 2021 wildfire season, and it has raised $25 million in a Series A financing round. Kettle is bringing that advanced technology to the $400 billion a year reinsurance industry, starting with those California wildfires. That's a very, very important piece of information from this particular week because obviously we know that wildfire exposure continues to grow and the reinsurance industry has been grappling with trying to keep up with it.
So daps to Precious, because she was the one talking about, let's see, mergers and acquisitions into the end of the year. And also that money's flowing, man. So if you need to raise some cash, I think now's your time. You got to strike while the iron is hot. So does that surprise you, Precious? Or I think you were right on the nailed the nail on the head right there.
Yeah, this is the end of Q4. This is when we see a lot of this movement, a lot of these acquisitions, a lot of these seed, funding is really coming through. I think that the whole concept of, venture capital money and insurance ventures is still something that's kind of new to us. Typically VCs like to get in on the disrupting things, the new thing on the block. And that's the perfect segue into, again, our focus on Insurtech today with this episode. That fits the bill, right? These are new ways to do things that we've done for the past couple hundred years in a better way. And so that's the draw. And I think we'll continue to see more of that before the end of the year. That's my prediction.
Yeah, take it to the bank. Mortgage the house. No,
Precious has got that predictive psychic mojo going on. She said this a few weeks ago.
I called it. I'm not about sports, but funding and mergers, yes. I think I got my finger on the pulse of that.
I will take this opportunity to assuage the concerns of the institutes and tell everyone we are not investment advisors. We do not get paid by any of these companies for commercials. We don't take a vig on any of this.
I have no internal info that would jeopardize the integrity of my predictions. Yes.
If you're going to place any bets or make an investments, it's on you. Okay. But that is also a fantastic lead in to what Precious is going to talk about with current events.
So, Insurtech, what is this all about? How do we find out more? Are they here to take over? Are we all out of a job? What does the term actually mean? What does it look like? There is a really informative roadshow that is coming up in January that's really going to do a deeper dive into the Insurtech curiosity, right? So this is part 2 of having that discussion of, who are they? Do they mean us harm? How is this going to work? For those of us who work in a more traditional environment, what can we expect? So if this is something that you're curious about, if this is something that you'd like to know more of, because it's here to stay. This is not going anywhere. And so do keep an eye on Interact. That's where you're going to find out, the upcoming events that are really going to help us have a better grasp on what's going on in our ecosystem in this great world of insurance and all the different facets. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And definitely, if this is an area that you're not familiar with, get ready, because this is going to be something that's around, for the foreseeable future for sure.
So you're saying it's not the pet rock?
This will outlive the Cabbage Patch craze. This is going to be a thing. So buckle up and get used to it, because it's not a passing fad for sure.
Yeah, and I know our guest today has made a considerable investment, so I'm sure he's happy to hear that this is not going to be something that is going to be fleeting. It's going to be around, and it's going to be impacting us dramatically for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
So definitely check that out. And props to you, Heather, for being involved in putting together those roadshows and publicizing them. So awesome.
Absolutely.
Round of applause. All right. So we've kept our guests waiting long enough. We have one more segment. It is this week's trivia question of the week. All right. This week, in the vein of Insurtech, we're talking Insurtech for this episode. I do have an Insuretech-y question, but I'm going to take this opportunity to remind you all to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And in the comments, when I ask this question, if you get it right, we don't check answers. So if you Google it or whatever, that's fine. I mean, you know, most of us are just like really nerdy and we know this stuff off the top of our heads. Just kidding. But if you do have the right answer in the comments, we will randomly select someone to get some CPCU Society swag. So definitely participate in the comments. We also have our second winner, which is awesome. Last week I got to announce, last week I got to announce our first winner. This week I am announcing our second winner, which comes from episode 2. Fran Knotts got the correct answer. And I got a little wily that week. We were talking UFO abduction insurance. And the question was, is there such thing as UFO abduction insurance? And has there ever been a claim paid? And the answer to both of those questions, believe it or not, is true. So, Fran, we will reach out to you and we'll have the society send you some swag. Congratulations on winning some swag and participating in the trivia. And so, if you would like to win like Fran, this week's question has to do with Insurtech investment. And so the question is, globally, in 2021, what would you think is the total amount of anticipated Insurtech investment? And I'll give you a couple options here. There's multiple guesses. 5 billion, 10 billion, 25 billion, or $100 billion. I feel like Dr. Evil, $100 billion. Of those four, what did I say? 5 billion, 10 billion, 25 billion, or $100 billion. What do you think in 2021 will be the total amount of global Insurtech investment? And again, make sure to put your answer in the comments below to be eligible to win some swag. All right. Without further ado, I'm sure he's probably been put to sleep waiting to come on board here. But we have with us Paul Gaglioti from Harbor.ai, and he is our CPCU Champion profile this week. All right, Paul, are you a mashed potato maximalist or what?
I love a good mashed potato. Like, who doesn't like mashed potatoes, man? Come on. I mean, you gotta love mashed potatoes. You know, it's how you do it. You know, I'm not a big sour cream guy, but you throw a little sour cream in the mashed potatoes, like, I'm gonna say yes, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm very much into it. You know, very, very much.
It is kind of the vanilla ice cream of the entire holiday meal, but you know, it just goes with everything. You're right.
Exactly. You know, you gotta love them. You know, 100%.
All right, cool. So, for anyone who is joining this program for the first time or is a returning viewer and doesn't know who you are and hasn't heard of Harbor.ai, just give us 1 minute. Who are you and what is Harbor.ai?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys, and gals, of course. So my name is Paul Gaglioti. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Harbor.ai. Harbor.ai really helps insurers get their products to their brokers to enable a seamless insurance transaction using our proprietary technology. My partner, Mark Hadfield, and I have been on this endeavor for several years. I've been a broker for some time. Don't hold it against me. I've only got 4 CPCU classes done. So I guess we'll have to talk about that another day, Matt, about finalizing that. But we help our carrier partners, specifically in the specialty side, enable their brokers and underwriters to provide quotes and indications a lot faster. We do that. We've been doing it for some time. We work with a lot of, household name carriers. And in a lot of cases, a lot of folks will be touching the products that we've built for those folks.
All right. So here's the big question we wanted to kick this off with. And before we get your answer, I want to ask Heather and Precious what they think their answer is, as concisely as they can make it. And I'll start with you, Heather. Are Insurtech companies, are they insurance companies or are they technology companies?
Little bit of both.
That was like a layup for you after the holiday food question. Like,
I think you see a good blend in between them. Some of them are standalone. Like I'm just going to build the tech. But then you've got sometimes they're a little bit of a combo, and then sometimes they're over here where they are more insurance-y, I guess you could say. I think it all depends on what we're going to call or how we're going to define an Insuretech. So
interesting. Precious, concur, or are you going to take the anti?
I will say that Insurtech is kind of an umbrella term. There's so many types of companies that fall under the Insurtech banner. And so we have some insurers that still identify as Insurtech because they've just found a different way to underwrite and to service and to deliver their product. And then on the far other extreme, we have tech companies, and the commodity that they deal in happens to be insurance, And so I think that it's really hard. It's not a monolith for sure, depending on what their value proposition is to the industry is really going to determine, is it like a percentage split? Are they like 60-40? But I think it's really on a company by company basis.
Yeah. All right. So we've had two bites at the apple here. Paul, as someone who is knee deep in this even waist deep in this every single day, from your perspective, is Harbor.ai and more generally the Insurtech space, is it more insurance or is it more technology?
So, I love the term Insurtech. Jay Weintraub and Carol Hornig will throw the E in, still figuring it out. Great marketing. I love Jay for that, still figuring it out, but that's his thing. And I saw him speak a long time ago. He said that. So actually Harbor.ai is a little bit different. We're TechInsure. I like to flip it, right? Because we utilize technology to allow capacity to flow through to the market. Right. And I think a lot of Insurtechs, right, are more tech insure than Insurtech. And I think it's really important delineation because Insurtech, the first Insurtech was pretty simple. Okay. It was Matt's boat leaving the new world, Precious's boat leaving the new world, someone with a piece of chalk on a chalkboard in a coffee shop saying, you know what, this chalk and this chalkboard is our technology. And listen, up until 20 years ago, we were still doing stuff on napkins. Some deals still are, right? So that still is Insurtech, frankly, because that gets the job done for a lot of people, a lot of deals. So Insurtech means a lot of things to a lot of people. And I think it's really the people is number one thing that's really important. Like where the term underwriter, because it was the person that underwrote that specific thing. So, I think that you're going to see a lot of that. I liked, again, Heather and Precious really knocked down great ways of thinking about it. I think it's going to depend on the company because some companies have unbelievable technology that help those carriers get it to market. Some companies have unbelievable ways to underwrite that help products develop a lot faster. So I kind of think it's like a Pandora's box, kind of like mashed potatoes. You can do it kind of however you like it. Whenever you like some, then you come back to where they are.
Yeah.
Great plan, yeah.
Good stuff.
I like that viewpoint. I like it. It's it flips it on its head, like quite literally. I like that idea. So from that standpoint, how does Harbor, without necessarily talking too much about how the sauce is made, so to speak, but how does Harbor
mashed potatoes?
Kind
we're
of
on
approach?
The we're secret mashed potato recipe. Matt, come on, we're on the potato game here. We're Spud Central, right?
Without telling us whether you use Breakstone sour cream or something else.
I'm a salted butter kind of guy. I will say that I am salted butter. I do not do unsalted butter. I think that's a travesty, personally. But whatever. We'll talk to you about it later.
So, how does Harbor approach the tech piece of it, and kind of what direction are you, steering the boat in, so to speak?
I always tell people a lot of it comes down to like in insurance, we have some of the most talented people in financial services, period. There's no question in my mind about that. So, really, for us, we help those capacity providers get that product to market rapidly. The thing about product, and we focus largely on specialty, excess, and surplus lines, is that those are like heterogeneous risks, right? Which means that they're all one offs, a little bit different, you know what I mean? So what ends up happening is we have the most unbelievable director of underwriting. By the way, she's really, really great. You might know her, but she's amazing. So we interface with carriers very intimately. That allows us to understand how they make decisions, why they make decisions. That enables those brokers downstream to get a way better product. So when you think about like an insurance product, right? At the end of the day, what a lot of people forget about an insurance, and again, I'm only a CIC, which is an amazing designation, again, halfway through my CPCU. What I could always tell people is when you start to think about an insurance product, a lot of people forget there's two parties. You have the capacity provider or insurer and the insured. How many people in between is kind of irrelevant. It matters a lot, don't get me wrong. We're here to empower brokers and underwriters to do things more efficiently. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of like, if your house burns down, how quickly is that claim going to get paid? That's what matters, right? So when you start to think about that as a process, you're able to boil down those components and remove the skin from the potatoes to make that best mashed potato you've ever had.
This analogy is gonna live way longer.
You started it.
So you're speaking my language because as someone who is also a blockchain believer, like big time into blockchain, you're speaking my language. That idea of having two parties in the transaction and what happens in the middle. If we can cut it down as much as possible to streamline it and make it as low friction as possible, but still actually execute on what's intended in that contract. That's the ideal situation. Let me flip it to you, Precious. You kind of have looked under the hood a little bit in terms of Harbor. As someone who has had your foot in both sides of the business, so to speak, just like Paul, what do you really see as kind of like the value proposition of a Harbor or some of the other companies out there that are kind of taking this tact?
In my humble opinion, is the way that, first of all, the consumer expectation now is much different than it was just a few years ago. The patience, the tolerance, the understanding that these things aren't instant. I think especially in the commercial space, a lot of our customers that are commercial buyers, they're also personal lines buyers, and so they've been accustomed to instant quotes, instant endorsements, being able to kind of on demand, regardless of the time of day or night, engage in that process. Well, depending on what corner you sit in the commercial space right now, a lot of what we do is still very manual. It's still accord forms, email submissions. It's a very archaic process. And so we've seen historically that when it comes to innovation, it typically starts in personal lines and then it starts to make its way down the pike. So this is overdue in the commercial space for sure. This is, again, getting that product to market faster, enabling the brokers to spend less time with these very manual, tedious processes and get back to being that trusted advisor, right? So if you are able to streamline the process, still get reliable indications and quotes, and then from the carrier perspective, we've also seen this shift when you compare the overhead, the cost of a fully manual underwriting process. I remember, again, showing my age, when I first started in the industry, to write a homeowner's policy, we still had to go out on site with our camera, take pictures of the front, the back, the electric panel, right, in order to approve, just a simple, homeowners. But again, if you kind of lay it out side by side, this really old manual process that involves a lot of touch to a streamlined digital experience, there's really not a significant difference in outcomes. And so I think that if we're going to get leaner and more efficient, and again, fintech, we've seen this isn't a new thing. So it's definitely necessary. And like I said earlier, my predictions, the time is now. We're really going to see a lot of strides being taken in this space.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I'll just open this up to everyone. I mean, like, and I'll start with you, Paul, obviously, because you're the expert here. But what direction do you see this headed in? Like, is this something where, uh, or kind of harkening back to the blockchain analogy, in a lot of cases, I think it's more so that the technology begins being used by like the first adopters are essentially trying to fix the problems in the process that exists today. But then that second and third kind of wave actually kind of changes the product and the industry, right? Like it's almost like the first use is like the easiest one, that's the lowest friction, like just try and fix the problems that we have today. But then all of a sudden the tech starts to evolve to the point where it's like, whoa, we're not even doing insurance business the same way anymore. Do you see it headed in that direction, or do you think that a policy is always going to be a policy, and a insurance carrier is always going to be an insurance carrier?
So I think you get into like the purest form of insurance, and I like to kind of distill it down back to our example of Matt and Precious's ships leaving the New World to come here, right, and bring goods, right? Like at the end of the day, back then, the simplest risk transfer mechanism was like half Matt's grain and half of Precious's sugar got split between the ships. So heaven forbid one didn't make it. I mean, look, Matt was gone, but like his grain made it. So like it was only a half a loss, right? So sorry, Matt, you're somewhere in the Atlantic, you know what I mean? Bobbing around. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to think of what we provide, right? And I like the ship example because it brings the homage back to like the original insurance. Like obviously insurance is longer than that, but it's the simplest, easiest way to kind of consider it. So when I always tell people, when you think of the product, like what do we provide? Right? We try to provide a promise to give you something in the event you meet a certain criteria that would cause a loss, right? And at the end of the day, that promise is really important, specifically in the times that we're in today. With constantly evolving climate change, right? When you start to think about like how you underwrite risks that could be below water down the road, right? So what I think is that the products will always evolve, right? There's a lot of folks doing some amazing things to solve these complex problems. You have a kettle, right? You have different folks. Our Precious brings up photo inspections. We work with a company called The Tested that does. You love blockchain photo inspections. They know if they're tampered with, right? So that instead of a person going out, we can trust Heather to take the photos, right? And she does them. You know what I mean? And we can go from there. So I think it's just an evolution of what insurance means, and it always has to subscribe to that law of large numbers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Heather?
Yeah, I would just say, um, I I think that what Precious said about speed to market is so huge, and what is needed today is driven by consumer expectations. We no longer live in even a microwave world where it takes 3 minutes to heat something up. We live in the Amazon world where people expect instantaneous transaction
I thought you were going to
capability.
say air fryer, Heather, but okay.
Yeah, well, I was trying to work mashed potatoes in there
Yes.
somewhere. It just
Yeah,
wasn't going to fit. But we live in a world where consumer expectations are absolutely different, and that for us as an industry is going to have to evolve our thinking, because we're very adjusted to taking our time because we're incredibly risk averse, right? And we like to make sure we analyze and stretch and pull. If artificial intelligence can do that for us, what relief comes off the shoulders of those who sit in those underwriting roles, so that they can really focus on being that risk manager, being that relationship builder, and do the job. And I know that they're, as someone who sits inside of a carrier, but everyone who is inside of those carriers today, they get a little shaky when you start talking to them about artificial intelligence and its capabilities and what's it going to do. And to me, I'm like, open up to the idea that your life could actually get to be more relationship based versus my job is so task oriented. And I think that that's a mindset shift, because anytime you say the word Insurtech inside of some carriers, they're like, oh, you mean those people that lose all the money all the time? They just turn around and look at that. And I laugh and I go, you do understand that they are creating what is going to be the future today. And I think that is a huge mindset shift that's going to happen for the carrier side of the industry, because we need that capability to move product to market much faster. So
So
Yeah,
one point around that, Matt, if it's okay if I just kind of add to what Heather's point. I had the
go for
privilege
it.
of sitting down with the CEO of a very large publicly traded insurer, and he told me they did a study in the special. We focus on excess and surplus of specialty. So echoing Heather's point, right? Insuretech is very simple. It's here to empower an underwriter and a broker, not get rid of them, right? And that's the one thing I want to make sure people understand that are seeing this. They're like, I don't want that new tech because it's going to get rid of me. No, it's going to make you more efficient so you can do more deals that makes you more valuable, because you as the person, the individual, your skill set as that underwriter is being able to echo through that additional tool, right? So this CEO, and they're very solid, specialty carrier, said we did a study that said after an hour of releasing a quote, the probability of closing it falls off a cliff, just falls right off, right? Soon as we issue that quote, right, we know that the probability goes down just straight off the ledge. So when you start to think about that, goes to Precious's point and what you're saying, Heather, is that like consumers, right? Well, what do you mean? I got my car insurance in 13 minutes. In 15 minutes, it saves me 15%. I did it in 13. I'm even faster than you. You know what I mean? I got it in 13, not 15, right? That conditioning, which is a mechanism of our industry, right? Where some of the largest advertising spending in the world is insurance, specifically in the United States, of course, right? And we're in a $1 trillion space. We focus on commercial. It's over a $250 billion industry. People don't understand how big that is and how important insurance folks are. Those underwriters, those brokers, right, that are providing those value-added things. So absolutely, and I will tell you that to her point, the carriers, the ones that are like, hey, look, in the beginning, we're OG Insurtech. We like to say we've been doing this for a long time. Been a broker for 11 years. Been working on insurance technology for 6. So I can tell you this: when I first started, carriers were not very interested in us. They're like, no, we don't like this. Like, they're going to get rid of us. Like, and then they realize, like, wait a second. And I always tell people the greatest example, which is, at the carrier, you're an aircraft carrier. I want to be on that aircraft carrier in a storm on the ocean. As an Insurtech, I'm a go fast boat. I'm doing laps around you. You know what I mean? But when you want to go to port, that last mile, nautical mile in that example, you want to be on that go fast boat, because that's what's going to get you there faster without bumping into things, stuff like that. So that utilization, to Heather's point, of not being as afraid and welcoming the synergistic nature of the two, are really great. And I can tell you the carriers we work with, they obviously be really careful because we're under NDA with I think $600 billion of market cap insurers and other folks and value-added people. I can tell you with what we see, you're going to see an unbelievable difference in 5 years that benefits every stakeholder, underwriters, retail, wholesale, and most importantly, the insured. That is going to be the most important person's business that gets the value out of it.
No, that's huge. The ecosystem is that's the other thing is I think people a lot of times get out of this, what's the buzz phrase, the abundance mindset. They get out of that mindset and they think of the pie is only so big, and if you're taking my part of the pie, then I'm losing. But this actually kind of grows the pie, right? And so I'll flip it to you, Precious. We've talked about this a bunch on Sell Like a CPCU, but the value proposition for, say, just specifically brokers moving forward, someone like a Harbor, like Paul and Harbor, or some of the other Insurtechs out there that are kind of focusing on streamlining that quote rate bind process. What value does that bring to the broker client relationship at the end of the day?
Yes, that's a really good point. And I think, Paul mentioned earlier that this space is focused on the excess and surplus, non-admitted. These are not the submissions that would go to a standard admitted carrier right now. And so as a broker or an agent, this may be a one-off exposure that you don't really have the expertise in. You don't really know the questions to ask. This might be a relationship that you're able to leverage, someone at the PTA meeting that you got in front of, this brand new opportunity. And so when you don't have to, when you enter into a digital experience that really kind of, it's a decision tree process, just like much of underwriting. You start off with some basic info, and then based on that, it's intuitive enough to ask the secondary, the tertiary, however many layers of questions, so that we can really get to the precise info needed to make an underwriting decision. And so as a broker, if I have an opportunity, I'm really able to leverage a lot of these relationships that maybe I didn't touch before because I didn't have an admitted market that specialized in that sort of consultancy or whatever it is that they may do that puts it outside of, the classic appetite. And so being able to get that real-time feedback, we've gone through portals, we've gone through this experience where it's much easier to find out that, this question was the kick-out question. This was outside of the range. This is what made it ineligible. This is a price-sensitive answer, those sort of things, versus filling out again, I keep going back to, I have no personal, well, maybe I do, I have trauma. With paper submissions, it's like a homework, like a final exam, right? You write this paper, you send it to the professor, you're really proud of yourself, for them to red ink it and send it back to you. And then now you've got to go back to the customer. And now we have this erosion of confidence that starts to happen. So as an agent or broker, these digital experiences are really going to help put that expertise in your pocket so that you can deliver on a more, again, a more positive experience for all involved.
Yeah. And I would just tag in there to say, Precious, everything that you just said puts the customer at the center of it, because, in the process, and obviously dealing with operational processes, everybody's like, oh gosh, I got to pull my hair out because there's, 4 billion manuals out there that tell us how exactly, and now they're just all electronic versus being something on a shelf somewhere that you pull off. But I would say, building that confidence in the shift of the process to where it is easy and simple and makes the customer know and have confidence and trust that you are there for them, and you're there for them in the time frame that they want you to be there for them, versus, oh, we're going to get back to you in about 90 days to figure out if we can bind this or not. And those types of things erode confidence and trust with customers. And it puts them in a position where, like, well, wait a minute, does this insurance company even want me? Oh, wait a minute. And today they're gonna hop out. They're gonna go down the road immediately because they cannot transact business with you in an effective manner.
Before I kind of pivot to, you all three of you have done a fantastic job of explaining the ins and outs, and here I am chuckling to myself because I'm thinking of stand-up comedians. Heather, you mentioned something earlier about the like speed to market, right? And how we live in this world of kind of like almost instantaneous gratification. If anyone's ever watched Dane Cook do stand-up, he has like an older bit back from, I guess, the 90s, early 2000s. Where he was like, you know what? He was talking about basically the DMV. He was like, even in the time, like in 100 years, when we have like, instantaneous travel where we can teleport to places and be somewhere in like half a second or whatever, he's like, the DMV is still going to take 4 seconds. I'm going to be like, oh, come on, I had to be at work 2.5 seconds ago, right? That is exactly the world that we live in. And yes, we drag our feet. I use the royal we drag our feet a little bit because we are conservative, right? Like conservative in terms of not wanting to like put our neck too far out there and risk too much. And that aspect of it needs to, we're finding that balance, and there's a lot of push and pull that's going on in this process. And a lot of people are trying to figure out, all right, like, what does my job look like now that, what's funny is like back in the day when someone told you that there was going to be a process improvement and that was going to free up like 10 hours of your week every single week, back in the day, people were like, oh my God, I'm getting fired because they only need 30 hours out of me, or like, I'm going to lose my health benefits because they only need me part-time now because my job, again, the lack of abundance mindset, my job now is only needed 30 hours a week and not 40 hours a week, right? It's definitely a different mindset. All right. So that being said, Dane Cook reference out of the way. Check. So let's move in the direction of
potatoes. Check.
Yeah. we talked about funding earlier on. The trivia question this week is about funding and investment. And I wanted to kick it to you, Paul, and just kind of ask you, if anyone's watching that or listening that they're looking at getting into an Insurtech, starting an Insurtech, they're currently in one, or they're just, extremely curious, what has the fundraising process been like for you? Has it been something that has been has that been just as hard, if not harder, than the actual operating the business part? Or has that actually been fairly easy for you guys over at Harbor?
So I think it depends on where you sit, right? So there's a lot of people that are what I call money folks that come into insurance, and there's insurance folks that come into money, right? So there's two delineations of people. I'm an insurance person, right? So, so for us, it's a lot different, right? And I think there are people that are in. So there was a little clip of Precious earlier talking about like your network is who you are, right? And that's your value and stuff like that on your amazing cutaways, by the way. I've never seen one so good in insurance. So I'll give you credit on that. It's amazing. I've seen it before. I've watched some stuff. Let's get a little color here. You know what I mean? Because you gotta always. Yeah, you gotta always boil the potatoes before you mash them, by the way. You don't just throw those freaking things in. It's not gonna work. You can't do it. So boil the potatoes, everybody. But anyway, so when you get into that, I think you have to kind of think about like what your solution actually is. And that's really, really complicated for some people. For us, it's really easy because I'm the insurance guy and I have a genius AI data scientist as a business partner. So when people talk to me, they're like, wait, you're the CEO of a tech company? You don't look like you can code. I'm like, I cannot. And my CTO is amazing, right? So my point
I got a guy.
I got a guy. He's like good. And he spoke on a million panels. And a lot of times, like, I'm like, you need to dumb this down for me because like I'm a broker, right? But no, like, I think that you're going to find that it's like anything else. There's people that are really good at certain things. I think we're in such a big industry and a lot of people forget that, right? In insurance, because it's like, oh, like no one wants to buy insurance. And then I will tell you, the best salespeople in the world are insurance salespeople, period. No question. Take it to my grave. And here's why. Oh, my buddy sells cars and he's really good at it. Like, who doesn't want to drive a new Mercedes? That's kind of a joke. You know what I mean? Oh, my friend's a mortgage broker and they're really good. Like, who doesn't want money? Like, that kind of sounds kind of silly to me. My buddy's a life insurance broker and he sells a product or she sells a product that the person buying it will never use because they're dead. So explain to me how that is not a better salesperson. You can't, because they're not. They are the best, period. Insurance salespeople are the best, period. Go to war over that concept. Why that's important in that note that you had said is that fundraising is dependent on the product you're trying to solve. Some people have a solution looking for a problem, right? Some people built a solution for a specific problem. So for us, we're very fortunate about our partners, and it's not an issue for us. But we are insurance people with unbelievable technology. So I would tell anybody looking to get into this is partner with someone with true domain expertise. A CPCU that's been doing it for 20 years. Because you know what they're going to tell you? I benefit from having unbelievable mentors that have been doing this longer than I've been alive. They don't like me saying that, but it's true. It's not a good thing. Like, you know what I mean? They get mad at me, like, don't stop saying that. Like, but it's the truth. And I'll tell you why, because they helped Harbor skip steps in a way that's doing. I can tell you, Matt, we know each other for a while, right? Like, at the end of the day, when we were saying to people, we want to try to revolutionize E&S, they literally laughed in our faces. Like, that'll never happen, bud. Good luck. See you later. And I was like, all right, well, I'm still going to do it anyway. And they were wrong and I was right. And that is what it is. going back to mashed potatoes, I don't like sour cream a little bit. It works very well. I highly recommend it. So that being said, though, the Insurtechs that are out there, you have unbelievable product solutions out there. I will tell people we work with very large carriers. One thing I always tell you is it takes a lot longer than you think. So that'd be my only advice I would tell any Insurtech is if you think it takes 6 months, it takes 36 months. And when you figure that, because remember, we need solvency. We are that last resort. This isn't a game in insurance. We need companies to write to a profit because heaven forbid your house burns down. They need to have the money to pay that claim because you paid that premium for however many years claimless. Like that's a very important thing. And the overall industry structure, I would tell you, is really important for people to understand those dynamics. For us, we're very fortunate. We work with some of the largest carriers in the world. We build them products that other people will use. And we work with the best brokers in the world as well, wholesale and retail for some of our products, right? That will utilize it. So I think also to find a product market fit, right, is really challenging sometimes, right? Because you have this great technology, you know what I mean? It could fix insurance, but and Heather works at a carrier, so she can understand, it just because it works doesn't mean that they'll actually adopt it, right? Because that changes processes, right? You could have the best tech. How does it actually work in their tech stack, right? How quickly could they utilize that amazing solution? And is the juice, I like to say, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? We going to get enough out of it where it works? So that's what I was telling you, Insurtech. And, Matt knows, I'm on the Slack channels all the time, talking to folks, you know what I mean? Bothering him all the time. You know what I mean? I didn't know he was bearded these days, great beard, by the way. I'm very jealous. But I think that would be the best thing to think about, right? Is the money's there to the points of Precious and Heather, you know what I mean? It's there because of the industry, and I think that you just need to kind of figure out what that means, because, as we've seen, we've turned down big deals because they weren't the right deal for us. And that's really important is going back to being an underwriter or a broker comes down to your integrity and what you want for yourself and for your team and your people and your overall vision. And as long as you're always true to that, I believe that, you know what I mean? You go to sleep easy and you can know that. Because again, the money's that gets, it's there and there's a lot of it and there's a lot of people trying to get into it and stuff like that. So I think you're going to see a lot more. And I think, for us, we work with some unbelievable Insurtechs as well that have raised, unbelievable sums of money. And at the end of the day, they're true to their mission, they're true to their goals, they're true to themselves and their team, and then ultimately their investors. And that is going to get you, to that next level.
100%. 2 points. One, not every dollar is the same, right? So there are some good dollars 100%. And there's some bad dollars that will be thrown at you. So make sure that you make those choices wisely. And the second is someone is going to hear a clipped out part of this production and they're going to be like, what the hell is the deal with the mashed potato thing? What's going on? Hopefully they go to the full version and they watch the thing from the start so they have some context. All right. All right. Last ups. Precious, I'll give it to you and then Heather can hit cleanup here. So last ups, if you have one last question for Paul or just one last statement in terms of Harbor or the Insurtech space and where it's going.
No, I think, I agree. And I enjoy hearing that, again, the companies that go into this with a real appreciation and understanding of what insurance is are going to be the ones that have the longevity, that having that domain expertise that he mentioned, having that deep knowledge of exactly how all this stuff works, it's a value add. And so for anyone who's afraid, like I said, is this going to eliminate jobs or make us obsolete? Quite the contrary. I would argue that those of us who are really deeply embedded in this, that have that domain expertise, this will be an opportunity for the order takers of the ecosystem. This might be a wake-up call to to finish those CPCU parts, to get on the ship, to move to higher ground, because the bar is definitely going to be raised. Part of that overhead, part of that cost proposition we were talking about before is payroll. There's no way to sugarcoat that. And so when you have a skill set that's still in demand and necessary, there is a place for you. But just the overall notion of, like you said, everyone's going to go part-time, we're not going to be needed anymore. We're still going to be, because again, first of all, we possess the licenses. Second of all, again, we have that actual, how do you use this now to guide a conversation and look at this as, an asset and a tool. So those would be, kind of my final thoughts about it. Oh, did I run them off?
You scared Paul, or Paul was just like, you know what? She did such a good job. Like, I'm out.
Get out of here.
I got to start boiling those potatoes, dude. That thing's wild. That just doesn't happen like immediately. I actually had to text Precious to be like, was that me or everybody?
Yeah, boot it out of here, man.
Yeah, then you're like, you're done. That's it. Not a CPCU, never. You know what I mean? I'm just blacklisted. That's it. You're not going to get my file designation here.
Right, we're in the DEI, and that includes the CPCU and non-CPCU population within the world.
Right.
So
that's right.
We are open. So all right, I hit cleanup for us, Heather. What do you got?
Yeah. No, what made me really excited about what you had to say, Paul, just a moment ago, was insurance has always been a relationship-based business. It's all about the relationships that we have and that we develop with all those customers out there who are seeking us for something that they need. And like you said, insurance salespeople are the best salespeople in the world because they're selling something that people may never, ever absolutely use in their entire life, but they need that protection blanket. The relationship looks a little different in the future, but imagine yourself. Okay, I'm going to take us into the world of imagination here. It's no small potatoes that I'm doing that. All right. Imagine yourself as a broker in a world where all you had to focus on was building that relationship, and you had the capability from the product development side and the artificial intelligence side and all those things being enabled for you, where it's a conversation that you have with people to guide them to the point that they need to be so that they are protected from the risks that they need to be protected from. And it was all just gathered there for you. And you don't there's not all that rote and manual, I'm typing through 6 systems and then I got to print this out. Oh, wait a minute, not everything got into the printout that I did, and I got to fill some things in. And then I'm going to try to scan that and I'm going to send it into the underwriting area, and they're going to get mad and they're going to mark up my paper, like Precious said a moment ago, and they're going to ship it back to me. And it might take 24 hours to get through the system to be able to get that back and look at it. Imagine that world where you just had to focus on the relationship and how much that alleviates that stress and pressure that happens in between the carrier and the broker or the agent. What people are doing in the Insurtech space, just like you, Paul, are enabling relationships in just a new and different way.
All right, Paul, parting shots, last comments, and where can people go to find out more information about you and Harbor?
Sure. Definitely find us at Harbor.ai. Find me on, LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, a bunch of Slack channels. You can pretty much always find me. Bother Precious, she'll, find me real quick. But no, yeah, Heather and Precious, you might as well, like, you hit it really on the head. Like, technology, it's here to help. And, a lot of times I think about, Bill Gates, a great line he always says is like, or it was said at one time, was that when it comes to technology, people will always overestimate the next 2 years and underestimate the next 10 years. And within insurance, it's really important to think about that context. And Heather's right, like, technology's here to help you. Like, imagine if you didn't have a cell phone and you had to wait for your desk phone to ring. You know what I mean? That would probably suck, right? Like, let's be real, that'd be terrible. Or you didn't have email, you had to wait for paper mail. It's really challenging. And I think that what you're going to see is these unbelievable people, these journeymen and journeywomen of the industry that paved the road for us, the new guard, if you will, of insurance to go and provide these products. They set an unbelievable foundation for us. And as an industry, we're invaluable, to the point that was made earlier, insurance policy isn't I give you a bag of money and you let me know how much you used and then we kind of figure it out after, right? Like it's pretty complicated. And to that point that Heather made, by the technology, you free up time, which is your most valuable asset, period. Talk to anybody with more tech, Jeff Bezos, he's going to tell you, what I wish I had more of time, right? Money, I'm good, but I want time because time allows me to do things. Time, by managing that efficiently and effectively, it's going to enable brokers, underwriters, executives, call center people, everybody to live a better and more fulfilled experience and actually grow. So I would encourage anybody to do that. And look, I'm always, the shameless plug for the institutes and stuff. What I always tell people is like, I got my CIC designation. National Alliance did a piece on me because I got it faster than pretty much almost anybody did. The reason why is my dad told me that I needed industry experience. I had zero. I've been doing this for 10 months, right? He goes, go and take a class. Like, oh, there's this CIC thing and the CPCU thing. He goes, do that. And what I learned in those classes is invaluable. I would, you cannot take it from me. I just haven't had the time, which I will get after this, can assure you, give me, some period of time. Precious will come back and let you know when I get it done. I will get my CPCU done because I'll tell you why, when you go take these programs and classes, first of all, the class is amazing, but you know what? The networking, it's going to open every freaking door for you real fast, right? Because you want to know why? People know you're serious. And in today's world where people are so like, whatever, not really doing anything, when you show that level of commitment in our industry, I have to guarantee you, with us specifically, I can tell you, you come to us with one of those designations, we look at you differently. Because you want to know why? We know you're committed. We know that you have a level of intelligence also that is a different level than, a vast majority of applicants, not insurance people, but applicants, right? So that really, really matters. And, I can't thank, Matt, Heather, Precious enough for this opportunity. If anybody ever needs anything, you know where to find me. So, thank you. Again, mashed potato recipe, please also let me know if you have a good one. I'm always interested. I'm Italian, so I'm a lasagna guy. That's what I'm going to be making tomorrow. And I got a little turducken action I got from Louisiana, which I know there's a lovely Louisianan on this call here. So, you know what I mean? But thank y'all, so incredibly much for the opportunity. And, I look forward to, chatting again.
Do you put crawdads in the turducken or?
That'd be a little too crunchy. I think we're getting we're crossing some lines here. Look, we're both Jersey guys, Matt. You know what I mean? But there's a line. I think it might be crossing with the crawdad action. I will tell you, there's a little andouille sausage. This is very nice. See, my mom was born in Italy, so I take my pasta very seriously. So tomorrow I start very early making a sauce. Like it will be an all-day affair to do that. But no,
dedication.
Thank you all very much. And of course, you got to be dedicated,
Yeah. Look, I want to say thank you, also for, you taking the time. Obviously, you said time's really important. I know it's important to you. One final reminder, especially to anyone who is watching this program from the great state of Idaho or another potato producing state, you should like, comment, subscribe, and share this production. This is right up your alley. No excuses. No excuses if you come from a potato-producing state and you're watching this. Or country, mind you, because we're a global organization. With that, I want to say thank you to everyone. That is another show.
Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
3 questions.
Three questions.
Dude. I'm dropping the ball here. We got 3 questions. We're going to go rapid fire. All right.
Potato brain.
Not yet. Tomorrow, about 6 o'clock at night.
His brains are mush.
Too mashed. All right. What are you reading, studying, or are entertaining yourself with in terms of movies or media or anything like that? What's kind of like your go-to right now that you're either working on or being entertained by?
Science. I've been so like our Earth's core is not solid. I just found out, which kind of like rocked my world. Literally, right? You know, get that? Literally rocked my world.
It spins too.
It's like, yeah, it's weird. And so I've been just reading an incredible amount of science. I learned how long a light year is, which is approximately the same amount of inches in a mile, which is 63,600 times 93 million miles. That's all a light year is, which is freaking wild how big that is. So that is clearly where you can see my brain has been, which has been on science and math. And for someone who went to summer school for math in high school because I failed it, it's pretty interesting that this is where I am. But
that's
okay.
Yeah, you're a late bloomer.
Definitely, for sure, a late bloomer. But yeah, that's basically been what it is, and and learning a lot, and that matters. And like, environmental risk. You talk about kettle and stuff like that. What's going on in climate change. I think being in our industry, we're completely tied to the dynamics of weather and stuff like that. And I think like electromagnetism and stuff like that for electric grid is really, really interesting concepts. So I've just been reading an incredible amount about our solar system and the intricacies of how the world works.
Oh, we will. I'll share some super string theory with you, and we will freaking nerd out like crazy,
all day, dude. My pleasure.
All right. Is there someone you would like to shout out and say thank you to, recognize, or just someone you look up to who is a champion, has been a champion in your life, or a champion that you look up to, and you would like to recognize their championness?
Yeah, I have to say, like, one of my mentors who is kind of like my big brother, Nick Gerhardt, who's an ex-insurance commissioner from Iowa, not Idaho, so close for the potato game. I got to talk to him about what the farming is for potatoes in Iowa. Nick's been an advisor to Harbor and has helped us immensely. And, his, role as he's currently an executive at a carrier as well. He's helped quite a bit. Look him up on LinkedIn, Nick Gerhardt. He is a thought leader in the industry, has helped quite immensely. And I can't thank those folks. And that's one thing I will say in this industry, so many people are so accessible that finding a mentor, which I'd recommend anybody at any age do, regardless of anything, they're so accessible. And it's a wild thing about insurance. We're in this weird, familial, $1 trillion industry. So I would have to always say, Nick, he's helped immensely, and I'd always give a shout out. Like I said, he gives some very thoughtful stuff on LinkedIn, so definitely give someone like him a follow. And shameless plug to get him on here too if you want him. So.
Good on him. Good on Nick. All right, I'm gonna mix it up for this third one. Normally, you would be the only one answering this question, but we're gonna mix it up a little bit. All right. The question is, and I'm gonna throw the second half of it to Precious and Heather. So Precious knows you, somewhat well, more than, just kind of average Joe off the street, first time meeting, right? And Heather just kind of met you. She might have seen you around LinkedIn, but more of kind of like a, just introduced professionally kind of vibe going on here. All right. The question is, if there was a movie made of your life, what would the genre be? And then I'm going to ask Precious and Heather who they think should play you in that movie. So, Paul, what would the movie of your life, what genre would it be?
Well, I mean, given the fact that everybody told us what we're doing is not going to work, it's got to be a Western. You know what I
mean? Okay, so we have a Western. Now, automatically the answer isn't Clint Eastwood, okay, if I stole anyone's thunder, but I'll give Heather first bite at the apple here. Who do you think should play Paul in the Western movie of his life?
He's got to be the young Robert De Niro.
Oh,
I'm just telling you, he's got the De Niro. He's got the De Niro going.
Yeah, I thought you was going to say John Lovitz, and I was a little nervous.
Wait for it. Precious still has to go. All right, Precious. If you were to pick a actor to play Paul in the movie of his life, in his Western, who would it be?
See, the Western thing threw me off. I wasn't expecting Western. I was really going probably more drama.
She knows me very well. See, too well to answer that.
But as far as an actor to play him, let's say in his life movie, Clooney, gotta be.
All
Good
right.
job. I like that. There we go. All right. Not
I'll
John
watch
Lovitz.
Clooney in a
Notice, not John. You know what I mean? Or Gilbert Gottfried. I was worried. It was like Gilbert Gottfried. John Lovitz. I was like, you know.
That's Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Aflacs he brings back to insurance. See, we can tie it all together. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Gilbert, if it was an animated Western and I was your sidekick and I was some kind of animal, Gilbert Gottfried can voice me. That's all right. We'll go with that one. All right.
Sidekick. Is that like Shrek and Donkey? Like, where are you going with that one?
Exactly. Look, insurance brokers have layers. Just remember that.
There you go.
that's it.
They're exactly like our face.
Not in mashed potatoes as much. Get away from the onion and the mashed. I'm not really a fan. I think you keep true to the spot.
Yeah. So with that, thank you very much, Paul. Thank you, Precious and Heather, for reminding me about our 3 questions. And you'll appreciate this one, Paul. Our outro has to do with science, so just keep an eye out for it. And that's another one in the can. Thank you very much, champions. Have a good week. Peace.
I think these videos are brilliant, and I'm sure you will like them too. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification bell.